The room was pitch black. The only sound was the rage breathing of the three girls, Bola, Sade and Senor Bisi, as they huddled together on the cold floor. Then, kai, 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 kai. The footsteps moved towards them. Bola clenched her fist. We shouldn't have done this. We shouldn't have called her. A shadow shifted in the darkness. A presence loomed over them, tall and waiting. Then, a whisper, soft and slow like silk unraveling in the wind. Who calls my name? Bola's breath hitched. She felt something cold brush against her arm, like a hand just barely touching her. Sade whimpered. Bisi screeched, her eyes shut, and then the candle lit itself. A flame flickered to life, illuminating the space in front of them. And they saw her, Madame Koi Koi. She stood at the edge of the circle, her blood-red gown flowing like it was being moved by an invisible breeze. Her face, it was half covered in darkness, but what they could see was twisted unnatural. Her lips were painted a deep crimson curled into a sickening smile, but her eyes, hollow, sunken, endless voids, were staring directly at Bola. She raised her hand. Long blackened nails stretched out towards them. Bisi gasped. Don't move, she whispered, desperately, but Bola was frozen. The ghost fingers reached towards her forehead and burned away. At first, something unseen pushed Madame Koi Koi back. She screeched, recoiling, as though something had struck her. The candle burst, plunging the room into darkness again. Then, silence. Bola felt like she had been holding her breath for an eternity. Sade whimpered. Is she gone? Bisi shakily turned on her torch. The beam of light swept across the room, empty. Madame Koi Koi was gone, but on the floor just in front of Bola, something had been burnt into a wood. A single black handprint, a mark, a warning. The next morning, the entire school was buzzing with whispers. Some heard a scream at night. They say it came from Dorm 4, another girl is going to disappear. She could barely eat her breakfast. She had seen her, she had felt her. Madame Koi Koi was real. And now, she had marked her. Sade nudged her. Bola, look. A new student had arrived at the dining hall. A girl, tall, calm, and completely unbothered by the nervous energy around her. She sat down alone, bowed her head, and prayed before eating. That's Daniela, Sade whimpered. She's new here, just transferred from another school. Bola watched her curiously. Something about her felt different. Unlike the other students, she didn't look scared. At that moment, Daniela looked up, and for a split second her eyes locked onto Bola's unknowing look, as if she already understood everything. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. Bola couldn't stop thinking about what happened last night, the way Madame Koi Koi had reached for her and recalled, the mark on the floor, and then Daniela. Something about her was different. At lunchtime, while most students were whispering about the night's strange event, Daniela sat alone reading her Bible. Bola nudged Sade. Let's go talk to her. Sade hesitated. Why? What if she's weird? Bola shook her head. I just feel like she knows something. Sade sighed but followed her as they approached Daniela's table. Hey, Bola said, sitting across from her. Daniela looked up. Her eyes were warm, steady, but sharp, as if she could see through her. Hi, she said simply. Bola hesitated. You're new here, right? Daniela nodded. Just transferred from St. Michael's College. Bola's breath caught. St. Michael's? That's the school where students started disappearing last year. Daniela finished for her. Bola stared. You knew? Daniela set her Bible down and met her gaze. That's why I'm here. Sade frowned. Wait, what do you mean? Daniela leaned in slightly. I know about her. Bola felt chills. Madame Koi Koi? Daniela nodded. She came to St. Michael's too, but she didn't stay. She ran. Sade scoffed. Ran? From what? Daniela smiled slightly. Not from what. Who? Bola's pulse quickened. You? Daniela didn't answer. She simply turned a page in her Bible and read softly. Behold, I give unto you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. She blinked. What does that mean? Daniela closed the Bible and looked at them. It means she has no power over me. Bola's throat went dry. She had never met someone who spoke about Madame Koikoi with such certainty, zero fear. Daniela leaned back. I know why she's here, and I know how to stop her. Shade raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do you plan to do that? Daniela's face was calm, but this next word sent chills down Bola's spine. She's already after you, isn't she? Bola's stomach dropped. Daniela's eyes didn't waver. She marked you last night. Shade gasped. How do you know that? Daniela's expression was unreadable. Because she tried to do the same thing to me, she said. And when she failed, she left my school. Bola's heart pounded. So that's why she was here now. She was running from you? Shade folded her arms. So what now? Are you saying we just pray and she disappears? Daniela's smile was small but firm. You don't have to believe me, she said. But when she comes back, and she will, you'll see for yourself. Then she stood up, picked up her Bible and walked away. Bola and Shade sat in stern silence. For the first time since the nightmare began, Bola felt something new. Not fear, hope. That night, Bola barely slept. Daniela's words echoed in her mind. She's already after you, isn't she? She marked you last night. Bola tossed and turned, her heart heavy with unease. Then a sound. At first, it was faint, barely noticeable over the soft snoring of the girls. Then it grew louder. Kai, 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 Kai. Bola's breath caught. No! It was happening again. She squeezed her eyes shut, heart racing. Stay still, don't move, don't breathe too loud. The footsteps grew closer, then a whisper, right beside her bed. You called me, didn't you? Bola's eyes snapped open, and there, standing right beside her bed, was Madame Koikoi. Her face was fully visible now, twisted in the dim moonlight, her lips curled into a cruel smile. She cannot save you. Bola's chest seized. Madame Koikoi reached out a hand. Bola couldn't move. She couldn't even scream. Then a voice, strong, firm and unwavering. In the name of Jesus, leave. The presence in the room shifted. The air turned heavy, thick, like something unseen was fighting back. Bola gasped for breath as Madame Koikoi stumbled backward. She was struggling. Daniel stood at the doorway, her Bible clutched in one hand. Her eyes were locked onto the ghost fearless. Madame Koikoi let out a shriek. Then, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. Silence fell over the dormitory. Bola stared at Daniela, chest rising and falling rapidly. Daniela exhaled and looked at her. She's getting desperate, she said. She knows she's running out of time. Bola swallowed hard. Time of what? Daniela clenched her jaw to finish what she started. Bola sat at the edge of her bed, her hands still shaking from what had just happened. The air in the dormitory was thick with tension. Shade had woken up, along with a few other girls, but no one had seen what she saw. Only Daniela. She stood near the doorway, calm as ever, her Bible still in her hand. She's getting desperate, she said, and repeated. Bola swallowed. What do you mean? What is she trying to finish? Daniela studied her for a moment, then sighed. Let's talk outside. She glanced at Shade. She looked terrified but nodded in encouragement. Bola followed Daniela out onto the open balcony that overlooked the school compound. The air was cool, but her skin still prickled from fear. Daniela leaned against the railing, staring at the abandoned school chapel in the distance. You know her story, right? She asked. Bola nodded. She was a teacher. The students got her fired. She died in an accident, and now she earns schools taking revenge. Daniela gave a small smile, but it wasn't one of amusement. That's what they want you to believe, she said. Bola frowned. What do you mean? Daniela exhaled. The story is incomplete. People only tell the parts they remember, but they've forgotten the most important piece, the real reason she keeps coming back. Bola's pulse quickened. Then tell me. Daniela looked at her, eyes serious. Madame Koi wasn't just fired, she said. She was betrayed. Many years ago, Daniela continued, there was a teacher at this school called Miss Grace. She was known for her beauty, her red heels, and her kindness. Bola shivered. So that part was true. Daniela nodded. Yes, but there was something else about her. Something no one talks about anymore. She had a son. Bola's breath hitched. A son? Daniela nodded. A small boy barely 7 years old. His name was Chijioke. She loved him more than anything. Bola listened. Her heart beat steady but deep. She had no husband. Daniela continued. Nobody knew who the father was. Some teachers whispered about her, calling her names, but she didn't care. All she cared about was that boy. Then, her face darkened, until the day he disappeared. Bola's eyes widened. What? Daniela nodded. One evening, while Madame Koi was finishing classes, Chijioke went outside to play. He never came back. Bola covered her mouth. What happened? Daniela clenched her fist. The students, the same ones who lied about her and got her fired, they had bullied him before calling him names because he had no father. That day, they took it too far. They locked him inside the old school chapel. Bola felt like she was sinking. Daniela's voice lowered. He screamed. He begged. But no one heard him. No one came for him. By the time they unlocked the door, her next word sent chills through Bola's bone. Chijioke was dead. Bola felt dizzy. No, that can't be true. That's not in any of the stories. Daniela looked at her. Because they erased it, the school covered it up. The teachers swore the students to secrecy. They called it an accident, said he got trapped by mistake. Bola shook her head in disbelief. And Madame Koi? Daniela's eyes darkened. She never forgave them. The day they fired her, she swore that no school would ever know peace again. Bola's throat was dry. That's why she keeps coming back. Daniela nodded. She's not just killing students at random. Bola, she's looking for them. The ones who let her son die. She wants them to suffer the way she did. Bola shuddered. But they are all gone now. It's been years. Daniela's face was grim. Maybe, but there's something else. He pointed towards the abandoned chapel. She always returns to the school where he died first. And this? She turned to face her. This is that school. Bola felt her stomach drop. Madame Koi had come back, and now she wasn't leaving until her revenge was complete. The night air was cold, but Bola felt like she was burning from the inside. She stared at Daniela, her heart pounding. This is the school where Chijioke died, she whispered. Daniela nodded, yes. Bola wrapped her arms around her. Then, does this mean she won't leave? Not this time. Daniela's eyes were grim. She's stronger here. This is where her pain began. This is where she suffered the most, and now she let out a slow breath. Now she's back to finish what she started. Bola clenched her fist. But that's not fair. The students who did that to her son are long gone. She's killing innocent people. Daniela closed her Bible and tucked it under her arm. Evil doesn't care about fairness. Bola, bitterness doesn't let go. When people hold on to their pain instead of letting it go, it poisons them. And when someone dies with that kind of anger, she looked away towards the chapel. They don't stay dead. A cold shiver crawled up Bola's spine. The next morning, the school was on edge. The principal gathered all students in the assembly hall. There have been strange incidents in the past few nights, she said carefully. Some students claim to have heard things, others claim to have seen things. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Bola exchanged a glance with Sade. Daniel sat a few rows away, completely unfazed. The principal cleared the truth. I want to remind all students that there is no such thing as ghosts or spirits. These are just rumors and fear-mongering. Curfew remains at 9 p.m. No one is allowed outside their dorms at night. That is all. Sade scoffed. So that's it? Just pretend nothing happened. Bola didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the front of the wall. On the wall, something had been scratched into a wooden panel behind the principal. I want my son. Bola's blood ran cold. The whisper in the hall grew louder. Some students had noticed it too. The principal went pale. That will be all. Dismissed. Bola turned to Daniela. She's making herself known. Daniela nodded. She's no longer hiding. Sade swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Daniela's door tightened. Pray, prepare and wait. Bola frowned. Wait for what? Daniela's eyes darkened. For the night she finally attacks. That night, the school was silent, but the air was wrong. Bola lay in bed, her heart racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the words on the wall. I want my son. Then suddenly, a scream. It ripped through the silence, raw and full of terror. Then another, and another. Bola shot up in bed. Sade was already awake, shaking. What's happening? The screams echoed from different dormitories at the same time. More students were waking up confused and afraid. Then, Kai. The sound came from every direction. Bola's stomach twisted. There were multiple footsteps, multiple heels clicking against the floor. Sade gasped. She's everywhere. The door to their dorm burst open. A junior girl collapsed inside, gasping for breath. She's coming. She snapped. She's inside. She's in the school. The power went out. The entire school plunged into darkness. Sade grabbed Bola's hand. We need to hide. But Bola wasn't looking at her anymore. She was looking at the hallway, at the shadows moving towards them, and at the red glow of Madame Koikoi's eyes. She had finally arrived. The hallway was filled with shadows, moving unnaturally, twisting like something that didn't belong in the world, and standing at the center of it all, Madame Koikoi. Her red heels glowed faintly in the darkness, and her lips curled into a wicked smile. Kai. The sound of her footsteps echoed from every direction. Sade clutched Bola's arm. Bola, move. But Bola couldn't. Madame Koikoi raised a single slender and pointed at her. Give him back to me. Bola's breath hitched. What? Madame Koikoi's voice was like a whisper carried by the wind, but it sank into Bola's bones. You took my son. Now I will take all of you. Then she launched. Bola barely had time to react before Sade yanked her backward, and they both stumbled onto the floor. Screams erupted all over the dormitory. Students were running, some trying to hide under the bed, some darting for the floor. But Madame Koikoi was faster. The light flickered violently and her form blurred. 1 second she was at the doorway, the next she was beside a girl who had tripped. The girl barely had time to scream before a sharp snap. Then, silence. The girl collapsed, unmoving. Sade let out a strangled sob. She killed her. Bola forced herself to move. She grabbed Sade's wrist. We have to get to Daniela. They scrambled towards the door, but before they could reach it, Kai. Madame Koikoi was in front of them again. Her eyes were glowing. Her smile was wider now, twisted with cruel amusement. You cannot run, she whispered. You cannot hide. Bola and Shade froze. She raised her hand and then a loud, powerful voice rang through the air. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. The room shook. A gust of wind slammed into Madame Koi Koi, sending her stumbling backward. For the first time, she looked surprised. Bola turned. Daniela stood at the entrance, her Bible open, her eyes burning with something stronger than fear. Faith. Madame Koi Koi, she said firmly, stepping forward. Your reign of terror is over. She hissed, eyes narrowing. You dare challenge me? Daniela didn't flinch. You have no power here. Your anger, your revenge, it dies tonight. The shadows around her trembled. She took a step back, and for the first time, Madame Koi Koi looked like she was afraid. The dormitory shook as Daniela stepped forward. Her Bible opened, her voice steady. Madame Koi Koi, you have tormented these students long enough. Your reign of fear ends tonight. Madame Koi Koi let out a low, dangerous laugh. The air around her grew colder, and the walls seemed to tremble. You think your prayers can save you? She whispered. Daniela didn't answer. She simply took another step forward, her eyes locked onto hers. Bola could feel something shifting in the air, a strange invisible force that made the hairs on her arm rise. Madame Koi Koi's red heels burnt brighter as she raised her hand, and suddenly the door slammed shut. The window shattered, the light flickered violently, and then the screaming began. Students were pulled into the shadows one by one. Some disappeared with a sharp cry, others clawed at the ground, their eyes wide with terror before vanishing into the swirling darkness. Bola grabbed Shade's wrist. We need to run. But Daniela didn't move. Instead, she lifted her Bible higher, her voice unwavering. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The shadows shrank back. Madame Koi Koi's face twisted in rage. She let out an unearthly shriek and lunged at her. Daniela stood her ground. Just as her clawed finger reached for her throat, she shouted, In the name of Jesus, leave this place. A blast of light erupted from Daniela's Bible, slamming into Madame Koi Koi. She screamed. Her body cracked, as if something inside her was breaking apart. No! The shadows exploded outward, throwing students and furniture across the room. The wind hollowed, the air trembled, and then silence. The darkness was gone, and so was Madame Koi Koi. Bola slowly opened her eyes. The dormitory was in ruins, broken beds, shattered glass, scattered books. Shade coughed, groaning as she sat up. Students peeked out from their hiding places, their faces pale, but Daniela was still standing. Her Bible was open, her hands were steady. She took a deep breath, then turned to the others. She's gone, she said quietly. It's over. For a moment no one moved. Then someone began to clap. Then another, and another. Soon the entire dormitory was cheering. Some students were crying, some were praying, others simply sat stunned silence. But one thing was clear. Madame Koi Koi was defeated, and she wasn't coming back.
Please subscribe to watch more of our videos. Thank you.